Hello, everybody. Welcome to Quantum Witch Cafe, your safe place to talk about anything paranormal, fringe, or UFOs. UAP if you're fancy and proper. Tonight, I have the honor of hosting Les Velez, who is an amazing author and has created an amazing group for support. But I'm going to let him tell you about that. But before we get to him, I'm going to say thank you to anybody that is live in the chat and watching on YouTube. I really appreciate your support. So please like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. And if you're listening on Anomalous Podcast Network, I appreciate you just as much. Leave any feedback that you can and tell your friends that there's people talking about fun, weird things here. There's ways to support the channel in my description, and there's also a link to Les's website and his information. So let's get started. Les, for people that don't know who you are, can you give us your bio? Like, who are you? What are you doing? Messing around with these UFO people,
Okay.
which is
Thank
me.
you
I'm a
very
UFO people.
Thank you, Priscilla. Appreciate being here with you tonight. And yeah, it's an interesting story in a sense that when I was 11 years old, I saw what I thought was a UFO, and it was rather close. This is when I lived in Connecticut, and I got quite frightened by the whole incident and ran into the house and tried to get my father to come out, and by the time he did, it was gone. And he says, "Oh, it's probably just a beacon of light reflecting off a cloud." And I really didn't believe that. And so I went to the library soon thereafter, picked up some books on UFOs. And George Adamski was this is the late 50s, and George Adamski was had a number of books out by then, and so I really got into it for a while, but. As life goes on, I kind of forgot about the whole thing and, uh, you know, graduated high school, went off to college, University of Vermont, graduated from there with a business degree and was in the ROTC program and went into the military. But before I went into the military, I got married and I served in the military 2 years active and 4 years reserve. And shortly after I got a job back in Connecticut, um, an opportunity came up to move out to California in 1985. I moved out there and picked up the San Jose Mercury News one day, and Stanton Freeman was going to talk about UFOs and the government cover up.
Wow.
Well, that kind of threw the switch for me again. I was like, oh my goodness, I got to go see this guy. And so I went to San Jose City College expecting to see a handful of people. And in fact, the auditorium was packed. He gave one of his wonderful presentations. And on my way out, I noticed a table that MUFON had, the Mutual UFO Network. And they talked about a monthly journal that they published. And so I decided, okay, I'm going to get this journal and start getting back into things. Well, shortly thereafter, it wasn't enough for me, and they had a field investigator training course,
Fun.
and so I decided to get the manual and read up on all the particulars and took the test, passed the test, and started to investigate cases with a more senior investigator. And almost without exception, those cases turned out to be not only sightings, but abductions, where people talked about the fact that they had contact with these non human entities, if you will. So, uh, what happened after that was that these people would ask me if I knew of other people having similar experiences. And I said, yes, I do. And I started to facilitate a support group in San Jose in my office. Uh, and so, um, that's where things really got interesting because I learned more from compared to any book that I had picked up thus far about the phenomena where these people were interacting, having these experiences, which were quite dramatic and quite scary in a lot of cases. And, it was something that, you know, I said to myself, well, how can I really help these people? Because a support group is one thing, but
Yeah,
beyond that, what can we do? And so
absolutely.
what happened after that was that in 1994, I was written up in an article in the Monterey Coast Weekly paper and talked about what I was doing for MUFON and the cases that I was investigating. And a woman that was also written up in the article contacted me afterwards, and she said, I'd like to understand what's going on with my brain when I'm in
Oh,
contact with these entities. And so, at first I said, well, I really, to myself, I really don't know what I can do with this person. And so, she said, and a little bit after that, that she was working with an emergency room doctor. And that kind of really got my interest because I had a doctor friend, Dr. Eugene Lipson, who subsequently became the co-founder with me with the organization that we co-founded in 1994, a nonprofit called OPUS, the
mhm.
Organization for Paranormal Understanding and Support. So, and he was very interested in, meeting with other doctors that were interested in the phenomena. So we went down to her place. She lived in Carmel, California. And as we entered her house, there was a picture on the wall. And in that picture, she was standing on the boat, back of a rather large vessel. And I said, what's this all about? She says, oh, yeah, we're down in the Caribbean. I said, really? What were you doing? Oh, I was helping these treasure finders. Well, how were you helping them? Well, I was in contact with the captain of the galleon that had gone down. So,
Wow.
so that started the afternoon. That you know, uh, uh, what, and the rest of the afternoon was remarkable. I mean, it blew us away that she was telling us stuff about ourselves. What happened after a near death experience that she had? She became very psychic.
Oh, wow.
And with that ability, she's been in contact with multiple uh, uh, intelligences, if you will, that gave her various forms of information. And so we came away that afternoon, Dr. Lipson and I, and saying, how can we help people like that? And thus the idea of Opus was hatched.
Wow.
And in 94, as I said, we became a fully recognized 501c3 nonprofit organization recognized by the IRS, which to me always is kind of funny. Paranormal and the IRS is just something that's little, you know, out there. But so the cases that we've come into contact with, even though we talk about the paranormal, which is a very diverse subject matter. I mean,
Yes.
you have spiritual awakening, Kundalini
Yeah.
awakening, you have poltergeist activity, you have
Right.
near-death experiences, you have all these UFO experiences, abductions,
Mhm.
all of this. But as it turned out, most of the activity that has come our way has been related to abductions. And so I think
Wow,
that's
yeah.
what the universe has decided that our mission is. Whether we have decided to make it more broad, the universe has said, you're going to help these
Right.
experiencers.
I always tell people the phenomena I say phenomena because it's more than one thing,
Mhm.
I'm very aware that it's phenomenon for people like spell checking or whatever, but, I think it's phenomena. There's more than one thing happening,
Oh,
and,
absolutely.
it kind of draws you back in because last year, a couple y almost 2 years ago now, I had a metaphysical business where I was teaching about chakras and meditation and astral travel and selling, like, meditation oils and all this stuff, and it just kinda, like, fell apart, and
Hmm.
then I don't even know how I ended up doing this show, it just happened.
Hmm.
And it's like, ever since my experience when I was 5, it just kinda, like everything always went back to UFOs. I was kinda like Giorgio Tsoukalos with the aliens thing, but it was always
Mhm,
UFOs. Like, there's
mhm.
other things, and I had other experiences with other beings as well, because my grandmother was a medium, she was a card reader, she did all sorts of weird Catholic magic type stuff, and, you know, it's all linked, right? But when somebody has an experience, it kind of, like, just opens them up to so many other types of paranormal, as the umbrella term, experiences.
Oh, there's no question about it that all these things are linked, whether you talk about poltergeist activity, UFO alien type activity. We've certainly found the fact that they're all related. I mean, one of the things that
Mm.
we just recently completed the first phase of a study called the Omega 4 study, and we went out to therapists and got their opinion on their working with experiencers.
Mhm.
And the number one thing that came out was that they all talked about the grays and these biological robotic type things. But then they also talked about orbs. That there was the
Yes.
second big thing. And then they talked about interdimensionals. That
Yep.
were the third biggest thing. And then the fourth biggest thing was poltergeist activity. And so
Mhm.
there's no question about it in my mind anyway that these things are totally linked. That we just do not understand the phenomena in a
Mm.
significant way. There's little bits and pieces that we seem to understand, but the overarching explanation of this phenomena is still not within our grasp. We talk about consciousness. We talk about all these different things that interplay with the phenomena, and you know, I've had experiences with a healer
Yeah.
from. I live in Texas at the moment,
Oh, cool.
and I have a friend who's a healer in Vancouver, British Columbia. And I had a back issue. This was a couple of years ago. And within 2 sessions from where he was, I got totally better.
Yeah. I
Uh,
believe it. I'm Usui Reiki trained, so I've done some healing work. My One of my regulars is in Scotland, and he won't even tell me what's hurting him, but I'll see it. It's super weird. Like when I will remote view his body, and
mhm,
I will see it. And I haven't really talked about this before, but I'll be like, "Hey, like what's going on with like, I'll do the whole like, scan, and I'm like, I sent something to your knee because it looked like it was
mhm.
inflamed." He's like, "I didn't even tell you about my knee." I'm like, "I know because like I tapped into your energy. You said I could. You got to get permission,
Yeah,
guys." But
yeah,
but it's amazing what like quantum energy healing will do. It's just like it
yeah.
works.
There's so much we don't understand, and the reality of it is that these people that have had experiences either are healed during that time frame or they become healers.
Mm,
I
true.
was at a MUFON symposium last July, and Robert Salas, who was
Mhm.
I don't know if you're familiar with him, but
Yes,
he was in,
absolutely.
okay, he was in charge of the missile base at Maelstrom when the missiles were shut down. Well, I gave a presentation at the last symposium regarding experiencers and experiences that they were having. And he came up to me afterwards and he says, "Can I talk to you?" And I said, "Of course." And so we sat down at my table. I had a table there. I was hawking some of my books, The Unknown Other and the Existential Proposition of Alien Contact.
I'm gonna get it.
And
I feel like it's gonna cause I'm gonna get it. I'm just gonna be like, "Oops," or
that's right.
I'm just gonna order it.
Okay. 30 lashes with a wet noodle until you get those. Okay.
I'll just, like, be, like, super wife and be like, "I earned this book. Your
Okay.
kids are alive. There's no
And
bugs and rats in the house, so."
all right, all right. So anyway, he came up to me with his wife afterwards,
Oh, wow.
and they both had experiences
And this
one
was pretty
evening.
recently, right?
Yeah,
This
and
was
and and he was telling me about what he observed, what was happening, and his wife, after the experience, became a healer. She was able to
wow.
heal people.
I did not know that.
And so, yeah, I tell you, this phenomena is remarkable, and it's something that I talk about in the book. I talk about all the aspects of the phenomena. The physical aspect, the psychological aspects of it. I talk about the UAP report that was put out
Mhm.
by the government last June. I talk about implants. I talk about hybrids. I talk about ancient history. Uh, this is something that's been going on for eons, and
Yes.
the manipulation, I believe, that's been going on, and the continued manipulation with the hybridization process is all part of some overarching scenario that we don't fully understand. There's
No.
various theories that are put out there about it, that these entities need us to survive in some way, shape, or form, or is it something where they're eventually going to take over the planet by hybridizing
Yeah.
everyone, and then there's not going to be any war or anything that's necessary in
Yeah.
that regard that we're seeing, in the Ukraine and with
Yes.
Russia. It's just going to be taken over overnight. All of a sudden, we're just going to wake up one day and they're in charge.
Yeah. It's very interesting to think about, like, this generation, like, my kids are growing up in a world where their government, whether we trust them or not, is putting research out there. They've been doing research, but they are acknowledging, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. And then we have big things happening in around the world, like the San Marino conference, and we've got these
Mhm.
amazing scientists getting involved in creating kind of like their own thing, like, the Galileo project, where it's not attached to the government at all. So I feel like they're slowly revving up to something bigger. And let's hope that we get more, interaction that changes people's, like, the way they view one another, so
Yeah,
we can stop fighting each other.
yeah. I have to talk about Lou Elizondo a little bit.
Sure.
Who I met just before the COVID thing shut everything down. I had lunch with him and a
Mhm.
couple of people, and he told me some things about the fact that they believe he believes that they understand the mechanisms that make these craft operate,
Well,
which is very interesting, and also the fact that you know I think his tact on getting the government involved was probably the smart way to do it, and presenting it as a possible threat. Because I don't think if it wasn't presented in that way, uh, nothing would have happened as far as really investigating this phenomena. And
absolutely.
I think that it's unfortunate that we have to take that tack, but I think that was a smart way to go about it.
Yes.
And you have proponents like Bud Hopkins and David Jacobs that feel that all of these entities are negative, and then you have Stephen Greer,
Yeah.
who's on the other side that believes they're all positive.
Yeah.
And we've seen in our studies that. The majority of people after an experience, after many experiences, feel like 65 to 70% feel it's probably a pretty positive thing, but the
Yes, yes.
remainder are negative. And so you have to understand that I think it's like what we deal here with on Earth. We have good people and we have bad people, and I think we have the same
Mhm.
thing going on up there. We have good ones and we
Absolutely.
have bad ones, and so. Um, one of the keynote speakers at the MUFON symposium was Nick Pope, and he was talking about the fact that the he hoped that it was either the Russians or the Chinese that had this technology because we could pick up the phone and talk to them. And I went up
Right.
to him afterwards and I said, "Wait a minute, Nick. don't you realize that there's people that are experiencing contact right
Yeah,
now and have been that can communicate with these entities? So you're missing a big factor here. And I think that's the next thing that has to happen, besides the fact that, okay, we have UAPs out there, and we're trying to understand who they are. And the government says, well, they're not the Russians, they're not the Chinese, and we don't have proof that they're aliens, but they don't have proof
right.
that they're not aliens.
Right, right.
And, and so, um, I think that the next step, and I'm sure, I'm 100% sure that the government is already talking to experiencers. You know, oh, I'm trying to think of his name now. Kit Green and
Yeah,
Gary Nolan have already
yeah,
talked to numerous
yeah.
experiencers, and they found out that these people that can communicate, these antenna people, have a difference in their connection between the caudate and putamen area in their brain, that there's a lot
Absolutely.
more
Yeah.
connections there. And so is that something, is that kind of the chicken and the egg? Is that something that the aliens are coming in to
Right.
understand? Or is it something that they created?
Yeah,
Which
exactly.
I tend to believe. And then this is generational. They found
Absolutely.
that their parents or their grandparents have
Absolutely.
this capability as well. It's a
Yeah,
fascinating phenomena,
it
and
really is, yeah. It'll keep you busy for lifetimes, like, you would have to come back again just to complete your work, and I regret not asking my grandmother because she was so, she was a medium, and
Mhm,
she was very open spiritually,
mhm,
so even though she was Catholic, like, God was the man, the saints were
mhm,
cool,
mm,
so
yeah,
but at the same time, she's very open to, other possibilities as well, so, I really wish I would have asked her, if she had ever seen anything, because it would be another, like, it would make more sense of, like, my scenario. So,
mhm,
but yeah, so you kind of, you've talked to a lot of, contactees and experiencers, and some people use those interchangeably, but to me, it just depends on what people are comfortable calling themselves or what they
mhm.
went through. So what sort of psychological and physiological characteristics have you noticed after somebody has had a very close encounter with either a being or a craft? Or I know a lot of people are triggered by the word abduction. So, but
Yeah,
sometimes it's that. Sometimes nobody's asking for this, and it's not. Sometimes it's a fine like experience, but sometimes
well,
it's like, why did this happen to me? I didn't want to,
oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. So many people were triggered by Whitley Strieber's
Yeah,
book, Communion, when they
yeah,
saw that picture. I mean, that
yes.
freaked out a lot of people.
And people didn't even know why it was triggering. I was a little girl and I was like I knew like when I'd see those gray types, I knew that if I thought about them, that I would see them later on. So, it's just a
Yeah.
crazy connection that people have, even people that haven't had experiences, they see it and they're automatically like have, an emotional response.
Well, most, almost 100% of the people, when they have their first experience, and this is a process that people go through. I mean, there's anxiety, there's fear of specific locations. They have flashbacks, sleep disturbances. They have phobias, depression, confusion, PTSD. I mean, it's a plethora of these
Mhm.
types of things that occur after having one. Inappropriate reactions, like what an individual experiences, like I said, with Whitley Strieber's
Yeah,
book Communion. I mean, it's that kind of thing. I mean, so it's something that most of these people, reach out to a psychologist or a psychiatrist, and they want to understand, are they going crazy? And then they find
mm,
out that they're not going crazy. They
right.
don't have a psychopathology. So then what? What's the next step? And so that's what Opus is all about.
So you find something like Opus, so
And the fact that we can give them a safe place to talk to other people having these types of experiences in the confidential support group. And then we also have referrals to therapists, around the country. and we're always looking for more therapists. Unfortunately, a lot of therapists are not familiar with the topic,
Wow.
and that presents a problem. And trying to understand, because if you go to someone that is not heard about this, the first thing they do is they want to, if it's a psychiatrist, they want to prescribe medication.
Yep. Yep.
And if it's a psychologist, they say, well, you need to go to a psychiatrist
Right. They're
to, so so it's a very negative situation for I like to call them experiencers, because that's kind of a neutral thing.
yes,
Contactee is
absolutely.
very positive, abductee is very negative,
Yes,
experiencer is sort of a neutral kind of a thing, because it
exactly.
could be both. And yeah, it's very sad. I mean, I get 2 to 3 contacts a day, looking for some kind of support, whether it's the support group or referral to a therapist. And
Yeah.
it's been ratcheting up substantially. And I don't know if that may be something to do with the world events right now, which are kind of scary for people.
Absolutely.
There's
Yeah.
been a lot of talk within the support group, which I monitor on a daily basis, that talks about, you know, Armageddon. They talk about world ending. They talk about all kinds of very negative things that the possibility of occurring, that may have nothing to do with the war that's going on in the Ukraine at the moment, but
Mm.
other, tsunamis, earthquakes, volcanoes, you name it, kinds of things. And it's been ratcheting up. So,
Yes.
I don't know, definitively one way or another whether these things are going to be forthcoming. But the bottom line is, it seems that the majority of people are feeling some really bad, negative things that will be occurring in the near
Yeah.
future.
Yes, absolutely. And a lot of people that have had experiences, and this is kind of how I learned it, with energy, like our energy bodies and the way we experience, like our energetic feelers, basically. Um, like you have this experience and it does one of two things. It makes you draw your energy in or it expands it out. But either way, it's almost like you got stuck in that whole like fight or flight. You become hyper aware and you don't go all the way back to normal. So these people I feel are picking up on everything happening, and they're feeling it in a different way than somebody that isn't open is feeling it. And then some
Mhm.
people are getting, visions, right? I know that even one of the little boys that was mentioned in the Trinity book got, visions of 9/11 happening, and that was,
Mhm.
like, years and years before that, so, it's very, and then you have this anxiety from your experience, and that can translate to everything in your life. It's a
Yeah.
very life-changing thing for people.
Oh, absolutely. You get up in the morning and you turn on the news and you start hearing negative things. You the pharmaceutical companies, oh my God, all these negative things that they talk about. Well, if you got this, you take this, and you got that,
Right.
you have this for you, and then all these things. And then they show pictures of these poor animals that are out in freezing, and
Mm. Yep, the
you
Sarah McLachlan
you
song.
you start taking in all this negative stuff, and it's very depressing. And so, on top of that, then you have the world events that are going on, and then you got the price of gas, and you got it's like
It's like all these
nonsense.
normal stressors and then added to somebody yeah.
You need to shut off the outside world in some way, shape, or form. But is that reality? Probably not. But the bottom line is, you try to do the best you can, and to be positive, and to help people as best you can. And shows like you put out there are really positive. To put the word out on various topics, and which helps people in a big way. So thank you for that, Priscilla.
Well, thank you for, like starting it. I feel like you have been somebody that's been doing it for a very long time. So you kind of were building roads for people like me and other newer people that are talking about it publicly to kind of like travel on because I remember let's see, I just turned 38. So I didn't talk about this until last year
Hmm.
openly. I
Wow.
talked, I told my grandfather who was there immediately after my experience when I came inside, or he caught me outside basically. And then, I told a couple other people and they basically said, "You're lying. God doesn't do stuff like that," kinda thing. And then after that, I just was kinda like I would tell people about like, the lights in the sky, but I wouldn't tell them about the beings because it's like automatically people think you're making it up or you're
Mm-hmm.
crazy. And I've suffered anxiety my whole life until this past year. So it's one of those things where people need different people to talk to. And there's a big thing going around. People, oh well, there's too many podcasters with UFO stuff now. Well, some people are gonna like me, and they're gonna want to talk to me, and some people are gonna want to talk to somebody else. Like everybody
Mm-hmm.
has a role in this whole how this rolls out. And people say disclosure, like how disclosure is happening is through different people and everybody has a different thing to bring to the table. So, I don't think there's ever gonna be enough people talking about it because there's so many people out there that are afraid to even say they saw an orb or a ghost. Like, people will be like, "Hey, so I know you're not gonna think I'm weird." And I won't talk to these people for years, and they'll call me. Or they'll message me on Facebook or Instagram, "Hey, can you call me?" So I call them, they're like, "I think I saw my grandpa,"
Mm-hmm.
or "I saw this
Yeah.
thing in the sky, and I looked at the satellite maps," and they know that it's not a plane or a satellite,
Yeah.
you know? So, a lot more people like, if I wasn't more open and out there telling people, "Hey, come to me with your experiences, and here's mine," then where are they gonna go? To their psychiatrist, like you said, where they're gonna be diagnosed with something they might not even have?
Right, exactly, and that's what we've been trying to do since 1994, is to give a safe, neutral place for people to talk about their experiences with other people having similar experiences, and so we ask people to come see us, at our website, opusnetwork.org. Hit the support button, and there's a very short little form you fill out, and then we'll get you into the support group, which has proved to be probably the most beneficial thing that we have provided for people, because the first thing that people ask, besides why,
Yeah.
is, do you know of other people having similar experiences? And right away, the answer is yes. There's a
Mhm.
multitude of people having very similar experiences. So you're not alone and you're not crazy. And you don't have a psychopathology. And we did a study that was actually funded by MUFON back in 2007, called the Omega 3 study, where we took 71 people that claimed to have had experiences and compared them to 51 people that were a control group. And the basic finding of that study was that these people did not have a psychopathology. They weren't fantasy prone. They had some dissociation from childhood trauma that went
Mhm.
on, but again, nothing with respect to a psychopathology, just a way to handle their experiences.
Mhm.
And that they had differences in their temporal lobe activity,
Wow.
which was different from the control group. And so, on that basis, these findings are pointing to the fact that, and this is something that Gary Nolan talks about in Kit Green with that caudate putamen area difference
Yes.
in the brain. So yeah, there's some kind of phenomena going on there that needs certainly further looking into to explain it in a more significant way. And we're actually in the process. I mentioned it earlier about the Omega-4 study, where we went out to therapists to talk about their experiences with
Wow.
the experiencers and getting that information. And we're going to be publishing that information very shortly. And the next phase is to go out to their clients and have a survey done with them. And so we're going to be looking at all these experiencers and looking for different things that probably other studies have looked at, like the free study. That actually the gentleman that I'm working with, Russ Galpone, was part of the free study that came out a number of years ago. So we're quite hopeful that we're going to find out some more interesting facts about these experiencers. Yeah, it's something that if you have people that come to you and they're looking for a support group, please point them in our direction.
Absolutely,
Uh,
absolutely.
yeah,
I
we can help.
it's important for people to have links to professionals because I know that people have kind of gone off and sort of formed these support groups, and sometimes that may or may not have somebody that is a professional, like in the psychology field. I'm
Hmm.
actually having somebody on named Leslie Mitchell Clark,
Hmm.
who I actually met through your agent in April. That's what I was looking at right now because I want to get the
Hmm.
date right. But I'm excited to talk to her because she's talked to a lot of, she does the hypno regressions and stuff. So, how many, how big will this study be? Do you think?
Well, based on the fact that we've had like over 50 therapists that responded,
Oh
and
wow.
we're hoping to get at least a couple of hundred experiencers to
Yeah, because if every
respond
one of
to us.
them has 2 people or 3, you know
Yeah,
what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah, exactly.
That's
So
amazing.
we're gonna hopefully have a good statistical number of people that will be able to look at that information and draw some conclusions.
You're taking me back to stats class. I loved stats class. I was so surprised too because I hate every other
Oh,
math,
really? Oh my
But when I
goodness.
was in statistics class, I
I,
was just like, I just loved it. Maybe that's just like the nerdy side of me. But so you work with MUFON. So Opus and MUFON are buddies. Do they work? Do you guys share information or do you do
well,
some projects together?
it
How's the
yeah,
link there? Because I
yeah,
know you were in
interest.
MUFON with, was it I'm sorry, what is the name of was it Abduction
A,
Response
a,
Team?
yeah, the A.E.R.C.
Okay. Okay.
This goes back to probably 2007. I spoke with James Carrion, who was the international director at the time, and I said, you know, MUFON is pretty much a nuts and bolts type of an
Right.
organization, and that you're missing, a big part of this phenomena in working with abductees. And so when people call in to your headquarters looking for help, you don't have anything set up. And I said, look,
Mm.
I have the Opus organization. I'd be happy to get involved. And so what happened was that when calls started to come into MUFON, they were redirected to me. And I was getting a lot of phone calls through the MUFON organization, and I would call these people up and find out what they were looking for, and again, either it was a support group, adding into the support group, but in those days it was mostly people looking for therapists, mostly
Mm.
hypnotherapists. That they wanted to unearth things that had transpired in their experiences that they couldn't remember. And so uh, during that period, the next thing that happened was that MUFON was really interested in doing a little bit more digging into the phenomena, and they asked me to set up an organization to look at these experiencers. And so I became the chairman of the A.E.R.C, the Abduction Experiencer Research Committee, and I put together a group of people, a lot of them therapists, and we decided to initiate this omega-3 study, which MUFON funded, and which was wonderful. And that's when I, came away with the 71 experiencers and 51 people that were the control group, and we came up with the conclusion that these people did not have a psychopathology, that they weren't fantasy prone, that they had dissociation involved based on some traumatic events in their childhood, and that their temporal lobe activity was different. Excuse me. And so we published, we presented that at the MUFON Symposium in Denver, and I think it was 2009, and it was very well received. And subsequently, MUFON got the idea that they should probably do this on their own, and not not. The light bulb went on.
They're like, oh.
Excuse me. And so they set up an organization called the E.R.T, which was called the Experiencer Research Team, now called the Experiencer Resource Team.
Okay.
And I'm a research consultant for the MUFON E.R.T. And so Kathleen Martin was in charge of that group and subsequently moved on. George Medich, who was the assistant director, is still involved, and Gwen Farrell, actually, who's out of Arizona, is now the head of that group. And so it's something that MUFON needed to do because I think they were missing a big part of this phenomena. So not only
Absolutely.
do you see something, but there's effects of that something, and a lot of it translates into an experience that's beyond just an observation of the phenomena.
Absolutely. And I've heard other people say that at one point, they try to reach out to MUFON, and probably before this was established, and
Mm-hmm.
they didn't get they didn't feel like they got they needed more help than MUFON was able to offer
Yeah,
at the time. So, and this was
yeah.
a while people talking, um like a while ago, like in the 90s, early 90s, that I talked to like on the side. So, hopefully they found Opus or the new, MUFON's connection with that, because it's really important. How many people have you talked to that have reported having implants? And also, if you have heard about the implants or seen any, what are they always metallic, or are they also organic sometimes? Like almost like a tumor, but not a tumor, if that makes any
Yeah,
sense.
I think you know, Dr. Roger Lear, who's since passed away, was very famous for uh, excising, I think it was 17 patients that had
Yeah.
implants. And his findings, I talk about that in my book as well. And I'll just quickly read some of the things about these implants. First of all, no inflammatory or rejection reaction by the body to these foreign objects is observed. No physical portal of entry. Collection of specialized nerve endings surrounding the object.
Hmm.
An outer coating of ceramic biological material, a metallic phase where inorganic metal becomes biological tissue. The emission of
Oh,
radio
wow.
waves, which are deep space frequencies in the FM band, have been noticed. Electromagnetic fields in excess of 10 milligauss. Composition of meteoric iron 66. Rare earth metals such as U-236, a single isotope of uranium existing by itself, as well as elements such as uridium, which is a very rare and hard to find in the Earth's crust. Non-terrestrial isotopic ratios indicating the involved elements did not come from Earth. Carbon nanotubes, gold spheres. I mean, these are just things that don't make any sense. And
Right.
and 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 so, you know, uh, Yes, we've definitely had people, and one of the things that we talk about with regard to the implants, if they're not bothering you, don't mess with it.
Right, right, I've heard that somewhere else, and I can't
Yeah,
place it.
yeah, and one of the things that happens is if you do remove one, next thing you know, they may come and get you and place it someplace that's even more difficult to get to.
I'm sorry, I'm not laughing at the fact they'll come get
Yeah,
you, but
yeah.
I mean, I've met them, so I kind of now I deal with it with humor.
Hmm.
I'm like, "Oh, they're just here to do their job," like, I do that kinda thing, but, it's not funny to everybody, so I shouldn't laugh, but it's just,
No,
um
I think and that's a good thing in a way because I talk about humor as something that we need to be able to have in this regard, especially once you're able to get the support that you need,
absolutely.
and that you can talk about these things within a group. Yeah, humor is a good medicine. Absolutely. Um,
Yes. And they have
no.
caused, some of my experiences have caused a lot of things,
Hmm.
none I can, like, prove, right? But
Hmm.
certain symptoms that I have match up with other females that have had similar timelines of, contact experiences or experiences in general, abduction experiences, like they've had a similar timeline to me and similar symptoms that I've had that I didn't even think about till I started talking to people this past year. So I didn't make those links. I just thought, oh, I just have a weird body, like weird things happen to me. But now that it's making sense,
Hmm.
it's funny. The more people you talk to, the patterns emerge.
Have you had missing pregnancies?
Yes, and
Yeah, yeah.
like, ridiculously early
Mhm.
menses that
Yeah,
stopped in a day or 2,
yeah.
endometriosis that wasn't,
Mm.
consistent with endometriosis because people that have endometriosis have it for long periods of time.
Right.
The ages where I have woken up outside
Mhm,
were consistent with the ages that usually people have, like, the bigger, experiences.
mhm.
So, early childhood, uh, puberty, and then later on in life. I
Yeah,
always joke, I'm like, when my eggs are about to go bad, they wanna make sure they you know? So,
yeah, yeah. No,
it's following like, seeing the patterns in other people is I'm like, "Oh, that's so amazing," but then I'm like, "Wait a minute." Like, this is close to home, a lot of the
oh,
times.
oh, absolutely. I mean, one of the board members of OPUS is Geraldine Orozco, and I don't know if
I
you've
love
heard.
her. I've had her on twice, and I
Have you?
swear,
You
I
talk about a
love her.
hybrid mother.
Oh, I love her. She's
S-
the one that she was telling me, like, and she lays it out like, okay, there's a process, and this is the process. Bullet point, bullet point, bullet point. And the whole time she was telling me that, it was like somebody was like stabbing me in the stomach with like that zing of adrenaline when you have like
Yeah.
the aha moment.
Hmm.
And I was like, check, check, check. Oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. And then I had her on another time to talk about so that first time I had her on, it was the hybridization program. And
Hmm.
then the second time it was like, who are the others? What are the different sorts of beings
Hmm.
people might encounter? This is my experience. And then she would be like, well, this is my experience. Like we talked about the different types that people encounter. And yeah, she's amazing. So you've worked with her.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's matter of fact, I was on a Zoom meeting with her yesterday,
She's
and
such a beautiful soul, just a
and
beautiful
she
person. I love
absolutely,
her.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. We're very happy to have her on the board. Terry Lovelace is on the board.
Um,
Uh, Linda Moulton Howe is on our advisory committee. Yvonne Smith is on our advisory committee. Melinda Leslie is on our
they're
advisory
all on my
committee.
wish list because I'm a new
Uh,
podcaster, so I'm like they're
uh,
on my
so,
wish list for guests because
yeah,
their work's been
absolutely.
so amazing, and they, again, paved the way. I know that sounds super cheesy to
Yeah,
keep saying, but it's true
no,
because
no,
somebody had to start it,
absolutely.
in the '80s and before that, people had to start, like, getting out there and putting creating these organizations.
Yeah, and where am I going with this? Oh yeah, senior moment.
It's late. I mean, like,
Yeah,
I get the mom moments, like, I got mom brain.
yeah. I was going to say that Linda Howe is wrote the foreword to my book,
Oh,
And
I
yes,
did see that, but I didn't get to read it yet. But
yeah, so yeah, I was very happy that she did that for me, and we're going to meet at the MUFON Symposium in Denver in July. She's going to actually be speaking there, and so
very cool.
haven't met with her in person, but I've known her for eons. We're
Yeah, that makes sense.
long time friends.
Well, you gotta think about people in this field, in the research field, like, they're spread out. It's not like you're like, "Oh, we're all accountants. We know each other." You know what I mean?
Hmm.
It's like, especially, when you started your research and when she started her research, people were, like, across the world sometimes. We have, like, Jacques Vallée talking to people here in the States, and it's just one of those things where, like, it's not normal to have that many UFO people in one little circle unless you're at a convention. So, I
Right.
believe that you are, have been a colleague with her for so long, but now you're finally gonna get to, like, hang out with her. That's amazing.
Oh yeah. I mean, and I can't believe it. She just turned 80 years old. And to me, that's unbelievable. Because
She
I
looks
look at her.
amazing. She
Oh yeah, she
sounds
looks
amazing. She's
she
very
looks great. Yeah, she's very much very active,
yes.
and so if we were talking about the tall whites yesterday. I
Yeah.
actually talked to her yesterday, and the fact that the tall whites will not allow anyone to fire nuclear weapons. And I said, "Oh my God, that I can only hope." And so she also said that these tall whites can live to be 800 years old because they figured out how to do that process. So she's hoping to connect with one so she can live another 700 years or more
Yeah,
to
I believe
continue
she
to do what she's
should. If
doing.
anyone's gonna do it, it's gonna be her. I mean
Yeah, absolutely. So anyway, it's so much fun to talk to her, and she's got so much knowledge. Yeah, really fantastic.
Yeah, I really look up to her, and, the nuts and bolts people may not believe her, or I don't think that I think that she's one of those people that a lot of the nuts and bolts people don't really give her enough respect for. Even if you don't believe what she's doing, she is a big piece of the puzzle when it comes to getting this topic out there and researched.
Hmm.
Somebody gave her medals and she hands them off to, people to analyze. So it's like one of those things where you don't have to agree with the person, but we all want the truth and we all want everybody to know that this is real. And we want to know more about it.
Absolutely.
And we want the tall whites to stop the nuclear weapons, obviously.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's something that I'm not a one to do a lot of prayers, but of late I've been doing some prayers to say I hope there's some kind of intervention to stop what's going on over there. Whether it's somebody knocks off Putin or
Yeah.
some other thing happens.
I'm so bad. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
He's a madman.
Yeah, it's
He's
so
just
unfortunate that this is going on now. You think, we're a civilized world, but in actuality, we're so tribal still. We
we really
just
are.
continue to fight each other on various topics. I mean, look what's going on here in the United States. I mean, you got people telling stories about the fact that the election was stolen, and it's like, come on. How
Still.
many times do we got to tell you no? And the courts have said no, and people have said no, and it's like,
Yeah.
no, they keep going on. I mean, it's like, what the hell is going on in their heads?
It's
It's
just like
crazy.
divisive culture has been drilled into us since we become exposed to the world.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even know, like, I have 2 sons, one is almost 3, one just turned 5, and they're so competitive already. And then people are like, "Well, that's just a brotherly thing," but I notice when they watch things that have more like fight scenes or, like, dualistic or
Hmm.
adversarial moments, it's
Hmm.
like they get worse, and it's like
Yep.
it's they're we are all little sponges when we come into the world, and we soak up this me versus you. We watch too much TV and advertisements, and when we start thinking, "If I don't fit A, B, C, and D, I'm a failure," and that's just, like, the beginning level of things. How is somebody supposed to come out and be like, "By the way, I saw an extraterrestrial or an interdimensional, and now I'm psychic. Like, how can you
Uh,
tell people,
yeah.
it was just we're fed to be divisive, and then we got Democrats versus Republicans, and then there's the guys on the side, vegans plus versus the meat eaters,
Yeah. Yeah.
reptilians versus Pleiadian. I'm just kidding. I actually have a really good question in the chat if
Sure.
you don't mind taking it.
Yeah,
The
please.
hour's flying
Please.
by, but I thought
Mhm.
this was a great question from Kat. And thank you everybody that joined now. Bob Marley, the Lauras were in here. I saw one leave random content. I think you said from Ireland. K24D. Did I say that correct? I might have mixed it up. Where did you go? I can't find your code name. It's like a number name. Where did you go? I always see you. Big Willie's in here. He has a show called UFO Garage, and it's like amazing. So um, I can't find him. But
Yeah.
here's the question:
Yeah. Yeah.
Are there specific studies that track families who are psychic or paranormal?
Yeah, I think that I mentioned Gary Nolan from Stanford University and Kit Green. They 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 looked at a number of experiencers that not only looked at the experiencers but their families, previous generations, and so you might want to do a little googling of Gary Nolan and that aspect. But as far as any other specific, studies, the bottom line is that what we've noticed is that this is very generational. That if you are psychic, most likely your parents are psychic or your grandparents are psychic. And so, other than that, that's as much as I know at this point.
Yeah, my grandma used to be like, "Oh, sorry, it was K42D. I was reversing it. I'm so sorry. Thank you so much for your support. I always see you in the chat. I messed up somebody's name, their chat name."
Mhm.
But yeah, my grandma used to be like, It skips a generation. It skips a generation." So Kat might have a follow-up question. So while she's getting that in, because Kat is somebody that's very supportive of the channel, she's always here in
Mhm.
the lives, very open to hearing anybody speak on the topic and not, oh, well, you're not this. She's open to different types of speakers. So I love having her
And
in the
and it's
chat.
great. It's great to have people that support you. I mean, it's so wonderful to have people. I mean, the one thing that we do is we survive on donations. We're a nonprofit organization, and if you do give, it's tax deductible. Uh, and but yeah, having any kind of support is wonderful, and so thank you, Kat.
Yes, yep. And I believe I have the Opus link inside the description so people know where to find that. Her follow-up question was percentage of women versus men in the family? Question mark.
Well, overall, it seems like there's a overwhelming number of women
Mm,
that are experiencing these types of things versus the men. However, I think that's skewed because I think the men, for whatever reason, are reticent about coming out, whereas
yes.
women are more forthcoming. So it's very difficult to give you a percentage. But right now, as far as our support group is concerned, it's probably almost 60-40, probably women to men
Mm.
that have come forward. Um, and and that has always interested me in a big way. That I think women have a special, unique place in not only society but in the universe. And you talk about your channel here, witch, quantum
Mhm.
witch. Yeah, okay. And I think, which is a wonderful thing. You have an ability to do things that most men don't have, and probably it's something that's been going on for eons. And is that something that has been created by, aliens, eons ago, in looking at our genetics, or is it just some kind of, you know, XY gene versus the Y gene or the X gene,
Mhm.
combination that causes that to happen? Uh, I look at my wife. We've been married for 52 years now, and she blows me away every once in a while with the stuff that she comes up with, and where the hell did that come from? you know, and and you guys are wonderful. Women are wonderful.
Thank you.
It's
We
just
That's awesome. Thank you for talking about that. Yeah, and I love hear people talk about their wife because I'm a wife, so obviously, but I'm also a woman and it's nice to hear men talk about stuff like this and give their wife credit when, I think everybody wants that in a partner to kind of acknowledge one another when they come up with these things. But yes, I agree. And women have kind of played like crazy roles throughout history, all the way back into Mesopotamia. We look at, you know, the goddess Inanna and synonymous with Ishtar in some cases, and what they went through. So, yeah, and women were always the healers. So who knows if the gods and goddesses that came from the sky and started teaching the women, the human women, things didn't sort of mesh in a way, whether it's
Mhm,
genetically, energetically, or even culturally, or all of it, even. So that's a great point that nobody's really brought up. So we are at the hour. Is
mhm.
there anything that we didn't address that you wanted to talk about?
Well, I think the only thing that I just want to put a point on it is the fact that, Opus is available at opusnetwork.org. And, we're here to help you. We have a support group, a confidential online support group. And then we also have referrals to therapists around the country and around the world, actually. We have people in the Australia, UK, and we do have in the support group people literally from all over the world: South America, Asia, uh, Australia, Europe, talking 24/7 to one another about their experiences. And so, if you'd like to join us, we'd be happy to have you, and look forward to your participation.
Absolutely, and that should be in the description, and I believe I put it there. I'll double check. If it's not there, it will be there, after I get off the chat.
And one other thing, as they
Absolutely.
say, don't forget my book.
Oh, yeah, I
Just,
was gonna throw
just,
that, yeah, don't forget his book.
it's called The Unknown Other and the Existential Proposition of Alien Contact, where I talk about basically a lot of the things that we talked about tonight.
I'll have to put that link in there, like the book link for Amazon, right? That's
Yeah,
where I found it. I
it's
didn't know
on.
if we had a
Yeah,
preferred way, but
yeah. If you go to our website, the homepage has a
okay.
picture of the book, and you can click on that, and that'll
Oh,
take you to
perfect,
Amazon, or
perfect.
you can just go to Amazon.
Well, we have your website, so it's nice to funnel everybody there so they can check out the website and see the different things that are available. Grab a book, see what you're up to. I really want your book. I think I'm gonna pull the trigger. It's my
Tell
husband's
your tell
birthday.
your
It's
tell
so
your
I'll get one
husband.
for I'll get it for him for his birthday, and
Tell him it's okay. I said it's okay.
okay. Yeah, I had, like, a stack of books, like,
Oh, I bet, I
over a
bet,
foot high
I
because I
bet.
read other
Yeah.
things too, I'm
Oh, yeah.
reading a UFO book, a witchy book, a spirituality book. I just started a course for, like a leading meditation, which I feel like I've done it before, but it's nice to learn more about it
Mhm.
from somebody that teaches you how to teach it or teach it, if that makes any
Right,
sense. So
right.
it's so cool that, you work with a lot of amazing people. So check out Opus and what they have to offer on their website. And thank you to everybody who's listening now, live, later on, or on Anomalous Podcast Network. Thank you again for coming on, Les, if you hang out for a minute
Mhm.
afterwards.
Sure.
And if you are looking to support the channel or Opus work, please look at the description below. There's different ways to support his work and the channel. Everybody have a great night. I hope to see you soon. I will see you. I will post my schedule because it's the end of the night for me, so I don't know what's going on anymore. So, thank you so much, everybody. Have a great night.